Oh, good afternoon. This is Julie Anderson, and looking forward to just spending a few minutes helping everybody understand the on-demand assessment, in particular for second grade. And so let's just move right along. If you have questions, you can type them in the chat room, and Andrea Keith is assisting me, and she'll direct questions that may be pertinent to all, or she can answer in the chat window. And we may have some of you joined us that are instructional specialists last week, and a lot of the information is similar, but we wanted to spend a little bit more time talking with second grade about their writing rubric and the process of how that evolved, the how and the why. So let's get going. What is the on-demand writing? Well, simply, it's just what can a student do on their own with a familiar form of writing quickly and absolutely independently in a short amount of time. And the basis for doing that, we had the opportunity to hear Lucy Calkins talk, and they use the on-demand writing throughout their new units of study that are aligned to the Common Core. And the premise behind that is we want to develop students that can be prepared for real-world tasks. If we think about it, we all have emails, and sometimes we get a task assigned to us, and we have to do a quick response. And so that's really very much a real-world task. And it's important to see what can a student do without all that extra coaching that happens during a regular unit of study when a teacher is conferring with a student. So one of the things that's beneficial about doing this kind of an assessment is just to help kids learn how to get started quickly. And Donald Graves, that's kind of his term that he talks about with his quick writes, is just to get off the mark quickly. In Jeff Anderson's book, 10 Things Every Writer Should Know, one of the things that he talks about with children is the importance of movement, as he likes to describe it, or fluency. It's a lot of children will say, I don't know what to write about. And the more that we give them the opportunities to do things like a quick write, gives them the opportunity, more practice that you have, the better you get at being able to respond to something. And so that's one benefit. And then another thing is giving kids the opportunity to do what Lucy Calkins calls flash draft writing, where you know your task and you can really do a quick draft in a short amount of time. And certainly when we have our state assessment, we want children to be able to have some time of very thoughtful planning, but also the benefit of doing this kind of writing will get them more accustomed to doing it within the time frame that they have. And one of the things you notice on the screen, we can't have this kind of writing just be a one-time showtime in fourth grade. So every grade level, by starting this in second grade with our district assessments, and also we're going to encourage you to think about how you can embed this within your regular unit of study to assess and measure growth. One of the other things that when we're talking about how we can use this in our unit of study, if we give this kind of an assessment where it's a very general prompt, and we're going to look at what's in the district benchmark guide, district progress monitoring teacher materials, and some of you may already have looked at that and seen this. Very simple. It's very generic. It's having kids be able to write all that they know on a topic of their choice for a familiar form. Such as a personal narrative, and that's what every second through fifth grader, they're going to write a personal narrative on their district assessment. But we can also do it at the end of a unit, just another second on-demand assessment during a class period to see what can a child do now that I've provided some instruction. I should see some growth as a result of that instruction. And then you can also use it to set goals with students as they continue to work throughout the year. Even though there are different units of study, they can take and make some goals from there. One of the other benefits of doing this kind of writing is that it shows parents exactly what their child can do independently. And you can see also, ways that they've grown as a writer, where you can take that paper that they've done during a unit of study and compare, because that's a paper that you've done a lot of work, maybe in small groups or conferring one-on-one. They've had a lot more support. And so that's also a benefit of that, and setting goals with the student as well. Okay, for the district assessment, these are the general guidelines that we have. You're going to do the writing during one 45-minute class period. Certainly know this is something that's new to students. If there's additional time that's needed for individual students, then you can certainly do that the following day. But you want to see how much can a child get done with their writing, and evaluate that process. And this is the same amount of time that in Lucy Calkins' unit of study that they allow for this quick little assessment. There's no minimum or maximum page requirement. So if a student, and they can just write on their own notebook paper, doesn't have to be formal paper. They're just bringing what they know about personal narrative writing in this case, and creating a small moment story from their own experience. And this allows the teacher to be able to see, does the child understand what a personal narrative is, the small moment story, what areas do I need to work on, what do I not need to work on, what are my kids doing well with, that I can maybe move ahead because they have a good grasp and understanding of the story elements. And simply that on the day that you're going to do the writing assessment, you're going to give the prompt at the beginning of writing workshop. Students get the opportunity to select a topic from their own personal life that's related to like I said, a very generic prompt. It's really asking them to do a small moment story. And we don't want to provide coaching or conferring on this writing, because we want to see what can a child do independently. We are going to ask the teachers to watch students closely so that they have the opportunity to already start learning some things about their writers in an assessment situation. And certainly we want teachers to clarify what students need to do with the writing. If a child doesn't understand what you mean by personal narrative, certainly clarify that. It's a story about you, something from your life. You can clarify those directions. So once the prompt has been given, students understand they're writing a story about themselves. The teacher is going to have the opportunity to just walk around and monitor and observe students. And we do have a little chart that was sent out with the assessment directions. And simply you can note these different elements, when a child gets started writing, when they finish. That can be, some children take a lot of think time. Some might lay their heads down. That might be something that you would want to take note of. And it will show an example of what the chart would look like in 5-minute increments to kind of note where is the child in the process of writing. And you see planning, you can look for planning, revision, and editing. Are they showing some of those processes? And then certainly frustration. And if there's other things that you note that are key, then certainly documenting those to help you plan your instruction accordingly. This is an example of an observation chart. You just have your students down on the one side, and then every 5 minutes you can kind of note. And for some children, you're not going to have maybe anything in a box. But it's kind of these big kind of things to be able to see at a glance where children are at. Okay, in the grade 2 directions, you'll have something that's is very generic. Today you'll write a small moment story or a true story about a time in your life. Write your best small moment story on a topic of your choice. Show everything you know about good personal narrative writing. You'll plan, draft, revise, and edit your story during today's workshop. And then follow along as I read the directions in your booklet. And I'll encourage second grade teachers to just go ahead and pick up a student booklet because you'll say, write a small moment story about a time in your life. And then in your small moment story, remember to write a beginning that hooks readers, show what happened in order, add details to help readers picture each scene, write a strong ending, and check your work for errors. And then, of course, you can clarify the directions as needed. So it's very simple and straightforward, provides them with the reminders and then allowing them to go ahead and get started. And like I said, if the children do need that additional time, then the following day you can provide that. That's not a problem at all. So after the assessment has been given, one of the things that we really encourage grade level teams to do is setting some goals, is to bring your observation notes along with the writing samples so that you can have those discussions about what do you notice the children are doing well, or what behaviors did you notice, and you can use that to help you begin planning for instruction. And one of the things we note there again is thinking about, even from that meeting, you could even look at the end of your unit, going ahead and having on a day when you're doing kind of the celebration, or we have some days built in for extra uh, teacher choice lessons, then this might be a time that you look at doing kind of a post test, if you will, to see what can, how has a child grown from that point. Right, and we certainly would encourage some vertical sharing with what you're observing. For example, second grade teachers may want to share with first grade teachers what they're learning as they're coming into second grade, and areas that you would need them to work on and to support you. And same with looking at third grade, being able to visit with third grade teachers. And earlier this in August, we pulled together a small group of principals along with district administrators to talk about how we can communicate with parents the increased rigor for STAR. All of you have had the opportunity that were in the district last year and came in before our August 16th district time equivalency. We talked about the way writing is organized, and how students revising and editing is combined with a child's composition scores, and how all those parts together impact a child's success. So when we were thinking about our increased rigor, we know that earning a 2 on a 4 rating STAR scale is not satisfactory. That's one of the things that we discussed. So we had brought in the principals and discussed how can we communicate that. And I'm going to share kind of the process that and the discussion points that we had in that group. And as a result of just the conversations that we had about how can we communicate that, because we know it's all of those elements pulled together, one of the things that they decided was to create a transitional writing rubric. Originally, we looked at trying to have a K-2 developmental rubric, and they really felt with the increased rigor of STAR that second grade was a great place to have something that still incorporates language from the 6 traits, but it blends it also with the grades 3 through 5 writing rubric, which is aligned to STAR for personal narrative, and then we have one for expository. And so one of the other things, when we take a look at the rubrics in a few minutes, you'll see a grading scale that was recommended by the principal group. So as I mentioned previously, we know on STAR, when we see under the unsatisfactory column, basic is a 2 or limited is a 1. They are not satisfactory. And that's where the whole conversation with the principals went, is how do we communicate that we can't feel comfortable with a 2? You will notice that we do have 2 as a district standard for the beginning of the year, and then we're looking at some combined elements for the middle and the end of the year, where we're combining the composition with the revising and editing. Okay, this was the rubric last year that a team of instructional specialists worked together with the curriculum staff, and it really was simply the 6 traits rubric. It was their developmental K-2 rubric from 6 traits, and then we adapted it, overlaid it so that we had really what was the strongest element, and we laid that down on a 5-point rubric. The 6-point, we cut off the last little part because it was a 6-point rubric. And we had our visuals that showed really each of these different stages where a writer would be at. Truly developmental, when you're thinking back in beginning, where you're really thinking more kindergarten students and some of their written communication, where it's becoming more of a standard communication to the experienced, which is really end of your second grade and even beginning of your third grade. But with that in mind, that we wanted to create something that was kind of in between, let me share with you our K and 1. Originally, when we started this, we talked about having kinder, first, and second grade use the same rubric. And when the principals looked at what was the draft, they really liked it. You'll see it's very similar to what we used last year in second grade. They really felt like this needed to be kinder and first grade. They felt like second grade, we need to even push ourselves even more and to blend and make some of the elements from 3 through 5 with some of the elements here from the K1 chart. So this was originally going to be K through 2, and we talked about taking the top 4 elements, but it just didn't really work trying to put those items in the 4-point range. Although we definitely have a lot of the language is similar because it really good writing is the 6 traits. And you'll see this is what we ended up with the final piece. So they have really it's 6 different stages, if you will, a 6-point rubric. And you'll see where it's highlighted in gray. So under developing, that is the end of your kindergarten expectations, that those students should be able to demonstrate those different qualities. And they're all of the 6 traits. It's just broken down into a checklist. And then you see the second shaded area under accomplished, or a 5, is the end of year expectations for first grade. And that originally was where we had end of year expectations for second grade. So the rigor is not only raised in the grades 3 through 5 or second grade, the rigor is also really raised in kinder and first grade. And that we're appreciative for everybody working together. So you'll see your K and 1 friends will be using this rubric. This is the bottom part of the rubric because you see the remaining traits there with word choice, sentence fluency, and convention. So they actually have a 2-page rubric that accommodates all of the different attributes. And here's the final grade 2 rubric, and it's in the district progress monitoring materials, both the student and the teacher booklet. So as I've mentioned before, we blended language from the K1 developmental writing rubric along with STAR. And we've made this rubric for grade 2 pretty generic, so it can be used with any kind of writing. As you may recall, STAR has a separate rubric for personal narrative along with a separate rubric for expository. They share a lot of similarities. However, when you get into the particular form of writing, there's some differences. So this one is really more encompassing. You'll see the 6 traits really are embedded within the rubric. Organization, ideas. You'll see sentence fluency is down in the language section, and word choice is as well. And then you have your conventions. The only thing that you don't see jumping off the page that's 6 traits is voice. And really, that's not on the STAR rubric. However, quality writing has voice. And it's really the combination of word choice and sentence fluency that leads to that voice coming through a paper. So one of the things that you'll also notice at the very top of the rubric, there are 4 points. And if you'll take a look, the score point 4 is accomplished, which is what it is on STAR. And this is the Sci-Fair writing rubric, so it's one that we've adapted and created. And satisfactory, same language as STAR. The one that changed is the score point 2. On STAR, it's called basic. And the conversations that we had with the principals was that basic, for many parents, would say, oh, that's okay. That doesn't seem so bad. We're going back to the basics. And so we felt like that language was misleading to parents. So they wanted, and it's for a 1, it's very limited, and that's what it shows on the STAR rubric. So the main thing that we changed that's different from the STAR rubric is the actual label for a 2, is to show that it's limited. And then the next thing that you'll see is we have some grade point ranges, along with some averages. You'll notice, let's take a look at the 2. So a 2 is really like on the line. We know on STAR, and we know that second grade they're not STAR taking a STAR test, but they're part of the process of getting students there. So thinking about a 2, unsatisfactory, we didn't want it to show, we wanted to communicate that it was unsatisfactory, so therefore we said 74%, that's the top range of a D. So that's where the 74% was assigned to a 2, to just indicate this is um, at a limited performance level. Then you'll notice there's a 2 minus and a 2 plus. You have some papers that solidly, they just fit in as a 2, but you have other papers you go, you know it's a 2, but wow, it's really progressing towards that 3 range. It's still a 2, but you can see that the child has made some effort. It's a stronger 2. So that gives the teacher some discretion to be able to do like a 2 plus, and then you would have a 78%, which would be a C range. And then you look on the other side, you've got the 2 minus, which is a 70%, which is the lowest score that you could earn with a D. And that one also communicates a limited performance. You notice that both of those score points, the 78 and 70, are 4 points away from the score that's in the middle, which was the 2, the 74%. And that's how all of the, you'll see, look at the 3, it's an 84%, and you see that same pattern of going up 4 and going down 4. And the same with the 4. Teachers have discretion on the 4. If you have a paper that's, you know it's a 4, and it's like the child has done something that really knocks your socks off, you have the capability of assigning them anywhere from 95 to 100. Generally, we would say that, you know, it'd have to be pretty outstanding to get 100, because a lot of writing, everything that you do can always lead to improvement. You never want to have the lead children in thinking this is a perfect paper, because we know that every paper can be improved. So that's teacher discretion. And then you look at the 1, you have anywhere from 69 to 50%. You may have had a child that really worked hard, you saw the effort, but the paper still really is a 1. Then you can choose to assign them something that would be on the higher range of a 1, versus a child that really it's so poor. Whether they tried hard or not, you really just know it's not an effective piece of writing at all, then that's where you can use your discretion. So that's the rubric as a whole, and really looking at the language. It starts with verbs, so it patterns after the K and 1 rubric, a lot of the language that's related to 6 traits, and then we incorporated some things that we saw about structure from the STAR rubric. And this is showing the grades 3 through 5, but you could still use the last year's grade 2 rubric. If teachers want to give some specific feedback on ideas or organization, certainly you could use that rubric if you wanted to do that as well. This is the grades 3 through 5 rubric. This one truly is for personal narrative, and you can see that it is very much looks the same as second grade, with the way the language is at the top of the rubric, and the grading scale is exactly the same. And the bullet points are the key elements that are found in the STAR rubric, just shortened. And I see someone, I think Twyla had commented about the values. We're going to make this available to you pretty much like you'll have it tomorrow. It's being recorded, so if you want to look at it. Plus, you should have your teacher materials, and your student materials are arriving as well, no later than tomorrow. But you can look at the rubric in the teacher materials, and ISs have those. They've had those since last week, so I just asked to see a copy of that. That'll be easier for you. You know, fourth grade does that adjacent scoring model, and really you're going to be just rating your rubric, you're grading your writing papers by yourself, but this still kind of allows for some accommodation with the grading. The principals really felt like that would communicate very well to parents how their child is performing. So really we see the transitional, the grade 2 as a very good transitional rubric. And I'm going to skip through this. We've talked about the combined elements. So you know that the composition plays a very important part. It's much more heavily weighted in the way that fourth grade writing goes, along with the multiple choice. And part of the reason it's included is just as a reminder of how important that is. And I'm going to talk about how that impacts second grade as well. On our district progress monitoring at middle of the year and end of year, we are going to have a combined standard. This was also something that principals in our discussion really felt could help better communicate to all grade levels as well as parents how writing performance, the connection between both the multiple choice section as well as writing work together. So what we're going to do rather than just saying, oh, the 2 is the passing standard for writing, it's an actual combined score. So let's go ahead. This is a second grade profile card and should have received that. Your instructional specialists have a copy of this. And you'll see at the beginning of the year, we're still having a 2 as a writing standard, a 2 out of 4, because you're using the new rubric. And we're still analyzing the conventions with our traditional rubric that we've used at the beginning of the year. We're assessing what the children can do within their writing sample. At the middle of the year, you're going to notice one of the requests from the principals is that we have second grade have a very simple revising and editing piece. And some of you might be saying, oh my goodness, that's a lot to expect. And it is, but I do believe our children are capable. And just to reassure you, it's really going to focus more on the editing. We really don't do very much revising, other than it might be a word choice question. But it really will be more of just, can you capitalize sentence beginnings, recognizing ending punctuation, capitalizing names, more in that aspect of editing as opposed to revising, because that's more complex. Even some simple spelling of common words that students should know with some patterns that are appropriate for second grade that they should know and have a good command of. It wouldn't be something that would be a complex pattern. So you'll see there'll be 11 written conventions. So really basically 11 revising editing items, mostly heavily on the editing. And then it's out of a total of 15. So you'd combine the writing score with how they performed on the written conventions, and it's close to a 70%. I think it's a 73% is the passing. And that at the end of the year, we'll have a few more, and we'll add a few very simple revising strategies. And we will create a handout that will show you these are the expectations at middle of year, these are the expectations at end of year, so that those are things that teachers can really work on with their writing instruction. And third grade, I'm going to skip through the profile cards for the other grade levels. And we're just going to open it up if there's some questions that you have right now. We'll give a few moments for that. Looking like if you have some questions, it's looking like that most people feel like their questions have been answered. And if not, feel free to send us an email. I'll give you maybe a couple more minutes. And if not, we hope you have a great evening, and we're really looking forward to seeing some really strong, effective writing practices put together and really growing our students' written communication skills. So thank you for joining us, and have a great evening. Okay, Deborah, yes, we'll be able to access this PowerPoint in the future. Yes, there's a link. Andrea is linking it, I think, on our project share page, but she'll also send a link out through email.
I did.
Oh, she already did. Look at her.
The link is, if they click on it right
Okay. All right. So in about 24 hours, she'll have that linked video with it. Okay, Janice, you have a question about why do we fill out the reading progress monitoring profile when you get the information from the computer? We send out the profile. I think you're talking about the profile cards for the district assessments. We send those out. Really, it's for the programmer to know the standards. It's not intended to be work for teachers to do. So that may be just something that your campus has chosen to do, but usually you record the information on the front of the student benchmark, or excuse me, district progress monitoring materials, so that you have that to share with parents. So that's just something I guess I'd talk with at your campus. Do you need to do that? No, not at all. However, it may be something that campuses are doing because they want to see kind of beginning and middle and end of year on one document. That would be the rationale, I guess, that some people would do that. All right, well, we'll just end with, as Lucy says, teach the writer, not the writing. That's the bottom line. That really is her message, is really to see what can a child do independently, and then what do I need to work on with them. And it's all about growing them and getting them to be better communicators. So y'all have a great evening and happy Friday.